That's okay. Good morning, One Heart, One Mind Center for Spiritual Living. Lisa, I muted you earlier, but I just now unmuted you, and I
Oh,
am going
thank
to
you.
invite you as our practitioner of the day to say a few words in person.
Okay. Well, I think this is a wonderful topic today, and I'm really interested in hearing more from Reverend Michelle as she kind of flowered out what she would talk about, because the title was that we live in a world of our own creation. And I've been thinking about that a lot, and that whole fact of even looking at different traditions who talk about that we have the responsibility for what happens. I think about, the whole basis of Ho'oponopono is that you create your life, and everything is your responsibility. Everything you bring into yourself is connected to you in some way, and he talks about cleaning it, which is that whole thing of purging yourself of the things that are not as um, constructive to you as they could be. So at any rate, that's one part of it, but then the focus that I really enjoy is her talking about the fact of looking at how we co-create, we don't control. And I was thinking about that just in terms of my experience, because that was my experience. It's like I have a lot of different diagnoses, um, that I won't go into. And so I constantly searching for cures and, constantly on the thing, what do I do next? What do I do next? What do I do next? Which was not necessarily, in some ways, I was getting some good information, got information in terms of eating better and those kind of things, but it's like my focus was over there. But it's like when I got smacked down with not being able to breathe and being hospitalized and really feeling on the verge of life or death, whichever you want to say. And just, just what went on in my head was the basic thing was, okay, I got things wrong with me, but I'm not ready to leave. I don't feel I'm done. And so it's like, so what do I do? And what it was like, let go. Just let it all go and go into spirit and really focus on the concept that God is in charge and use the principles that we've been talking about. And so I kept telling myself, I'm healed. I'm healed. And it's like it got into my psyche or wherever it needed to be, which is what enabled me then to follow instructions, so to speak, to listen and come from the inner voice rather than the outer, um, 3D voice, 4D voice, or what have you. And it's like it's just taken me on a new path. It's just really, really, I don't even know how to put it into words, but it's just sort of like the next, it's like I grew a lot from being a very devout Episcopalian to becoming a new thought person and becoming a practitioner. And I moved a great deal in spirit in that way. And it's just sort of like this is my next lesson, I think. And so it's what I've been playing with. And it's so interesting because and another thing that helped was that march, that peace march. And the whole thing of uh, those monks who essentially just stayed with peace. It's like their feet are bleeding. They don't pay attention to their feet. They're stuck with really in their own connected space spirit. And so it's kind of like that's when I've had these little, because obviously every day there's something quirky that happens that I wish didn't happen that way. But it's like, in the past I used to kind of moan and groan, and it's like now I have much more ability to say, wait a minute, I want to stay in the present. This is I can just let this go. And so I can't do it every time. But I'm just trying to say that this has made a new path for me in terms of trying to co-create with spirit rather than to do something external. And I'm not sure if that makes sense to everybody, but anyway, that's just sort of where I am and what I can encourage for people who are willing to let go and speak to spirit. So why don't we speak to spirit? Let us pray. Let's take a nice deep breath that joins us together. I am happy that we have this time together, that we can remember and celebrate our connection to one another and to the one life, the presence that is ever present, and that we can acknowledge that presence and know that it keeps us safe, that it guides us, and that even when we don't see the light is there, and that sometimes what we need to learn is not what we have put in our control, but that we do have the ability to determine our life in certain kinds of ways when we partner with spirit. And so I know for each and every person on this call, they will gain something from Reverend Michelle's talk, especially because she is always able to give us just what we need to hear every single time we listen to her. And so I know also that we're blessed to be together, to have this one heart, one mind organization that allows us to come together regularly and to become one with spirit and one with each other, and to constantly be learning the truth of existence and how to increase the joy and wonder in our lives. And so I'm so grateful for this truth. I'm so grateful for this center. I'm so grateful for each and every person who is on this call now or who will hear it at any time in the future. And so I'm thankful for this, and I release my word into the law. And I know that we are all together in knowing the truth. And so it is. We release together by saying, and so it is. The affirmation for March. My imagination awakens new life within me. I envision boldly, knowing my thoughts are seeds of becoming. Fresh possibility rises in me like blossoms reaching for the sun. I welcome renewal, growth, and the joyful unfolding of all I am. And so it is. And finally, I want to wish everybody a happy International Women's Day.
Oh, isn't that today?
That is today. That is
Yay.
today. So we
Well,
can
then my
celebrate.
talk is
Oh,
very appropriate. I didn't even know.
yes. It's perfect.
How funny is that? Listen, I was on the fence about one of two songs that I wanted to play just before the service, but your experience and the sharing of your experience kind of nailed that down for me. So thank you for that.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because this, what I'm about to play here, really talks about where you are or where you've been, what you've walked through, I think. So I am just going to share the sound because it's not a video. The one that I was going to share is a video, but this one is. So we'll just do this. Just whoops. Advanced computer audio. There we go. Okay, now I can play it. Can y'all hear it?
Am I strong enough to bear the burdens that sometimes come living this thing called life? Am I wise enough to make the right decisions when I'm standing at the fork in the road? Sometimes I wonder and ponder, only to realize realize I'm not alone, and there's nothing I have to do on my own, because I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Will I have enough to do the things I need to do to take care of myself? Will I have the health of mind and body to live a life of grace and wholeness? Sometimes I wonder and ponder, only to realize I'm not alone, and there's nothing I have to do on my own, because I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place. I am the place where God You are the place. Moves and breathes and has we are the place, where God shows up. I am the place. I am the place where God. You are the place.
You are the place, Lissa.
That's
I am
it.
the place. We are all the place.
We are the place.
We are the place. Oh, look at it. Oh, hi, Israel. Israel's awake. Oh, my friends. It's so good to be here this morning. Oh, and whether you're joining us in this Zoom room or you're joining us later in the replay, please know that you're a part of this shared field of love that our community expresses and creates together, and that I am grateful for you, that we are all grateful for each other. So this morning, as Lissa was saying earlier, we're exploring the metaphysical idea that we live in a world of our own creation, which sounds very empowering, and it is, but it can also raise the question, if I'm living in a world of my own creation, why doesn't it always look the way I want it to look? If my consciousness creates, then why do I still get stuck in traffic or have unexpected bills? Why do other people behave the way that I don't want them to behave? How do we live with these two seemingly contradictory truths? We're powerful creators, right? And how can we be at peace even when conditions don't comply to our desires? And while they may seem in opposition, these two ideas, and they're actually partners. As practitioners of science of mind, we know that we live in a universe that's governed by spiritual law. We know that this law is impersonal, that creative law doesn't judge, it doesn't play favorites or choose sides. It's simply and mechanistically responding to consciousness. We understand that we aren't the creators of the law, that we are participants with law. Just like, we participate with the laws of gravity or electricity, we use natural laws to shape our experience. So in essence, we're always co-creating, but we are not controlling. We co-create not by force, but by participating with the power we are inherently one with the power of God, spirit, source, the power of life itself. Here is where we live as the today's talk title says, in a world of our own creation. And I think it also helps to understand that creation happens on a couple of levels. There's our inner world, what we hold in our individual consciousness, our beliefs, our perceptions, what we believe about ourselves and our place in the world, and the meaning that we assign to the events and the circumstances that we experience. We affect these things directly by what we hold in our own individual consciousness.
Right.
And then there's what we create collectively, the outer conditions of the world, our collective cultural agreements, with what other people are contributing to from their individual consciousness to the collective consciousness. There's timing, and then there's the evolutionary unfolding of life itself. And because we're all individual expressions of the same one mind, living in a shared creative field, it means our personal responsibility and our personal power to co-create is not the same as controlling the world that is around us. I spent a couple of days, I was talking about this earlier before the service in our meditation time. I spent a couple of days this week substitute teaching in a first grade classroom. And I was reminded of this principle of co-creation as opposed to control. Because, oh, my friends, whoever needs to be muted here, I'm going to mute. There we go. I got it. We got it. We got it muted. Anyway, because you cannot control a room full of first graders. You can try, but it doesn't work very well. You can raise your voice. You can insist that everyone sit perfectly still. You can attempt to manage every little tiny movement in the room. But if you try to control every child, every moment, and every outcome, the classroom actually becomes really tense and really uncomfortable and honestly a little chaotic. It makes you crazy. And it's not a good learning environment for anybody, for the teacher or the kids. So good teachers, just like good co-creators, understand that rather than trying to control everything, our job is to create the right environment, to set clear intentions, to guide and provide structure and direction, to establish an environment that allows the natural energy, the curiosity, and the creativity of the children themselves to unfold naturally. And just as there is freedom in a safe and structured classroom, there's freedom in a peaceful and a calm state of consciousness, where the aspects of the divine are allowed to come out and play, to express themselves. It's a consciousness that is grounded in the peace of the divine that creates an environment of creative freedom. In the same way that a teacher creates a positive learning environment, we create the environment within our own individual consciousness through our beliefs and our expectations and what we hold as possible for ourselves in our imagination. We make space for the deeper intelligence of life, which is always there, inherent within us, to move through us and to bring the patterns of divine good into form. That's what establishing ourselves in the divine presence does. It expresses that good into form, to make space for that, to allow it, not through control. We cannot control the entire universal classroom as much as we'd like to, as much as I'd like to. But we do have a powerful influence over the atmosphere that we bring to our own consciousness, and that's what we express in the world. We create a resonance or a vibration of peace and space and freedom, and then that begins to unfold. Ernest Holmes, our founder, told us very clearly that life is a mirror and will reflect back to the thinker what he or she thinks into it. Our life experience shows up in agreement with the atmosphere of our state of consciousness, the environment in which we create internally. What am I holding? What state of being am I showing up with? Managing our own classroom or our own consciousness is not the same thing as trying to micromanage or control the universe. We have to remember that we are co-creating with an infinite intelligence that has a much larger view than our individual conscious mind does. I was thinking, to use our familiar metaphor, we can think like a gardener. A gardener chooses the seeds. A gardener prepares the soil and then waters it faithfully. But a gardener doesn't tug on the new shoots to get them to grow or try and control the weather. A gardener participates with the laws of gardening, knowing that there is already an intelligence within the seeds themselves that knows what to do. We don't have to be the director. We'd have to be in control. And sometimes birds or the wind might blow in new seeds, unexpected seeds into our garden that we didn't intentionally plant. Life's little surprises. And when something doesn't unfold exactly the way we prefer, it doesn't mean that we're terrible gardeners. It just means life is expressing itself beyond our limited view. Holmes told us that a practitioner does not deny conditions, but denies their power over him or her. In other words, we may encounter collective conditions, but we don't have to give them creative authority within our own consciousness, within our own inner classroom. And so it's important and powerful to remember that what we individually contribute to the collective whole matters. It shapes the collective consciousness. It's powerful. And every great wisdom tradition has pointed to the same truth, that our inner life matters, individually and collectively, and that the quality of our consciousness contributes to the quality of the collective whole. The Buddha taught that all that we are is a result of what we have thought. Or in other words, the inner world precedes the outer world. It sounds very science of mind. Ancient Hindu scripture expresses exactly the same thing. It's from the Upanishads. I'm not going to remember the exact quote, so I have to read it. The Upanishads said, "You are what your deep driving desire is. As your desire is, so is your will. As your will is, so is your deed. As your deed is, so is your destiny." Oh, different print, different language, different way of saying it, but exactly the same principle. Consciousness first, expression second. And of course, Neville Goddard, who is my current favorite go-to. He's a wonderful voice and one that I've come to love in the metaphysical tradition. And he said, of course, to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. I think he has a book called that. In other words, live inwardly, create within the state of life that you want to experience without, and just allow the outer world to reorganize itself around that inner state that we create. Not through force, but through alignment. Resonate with what is already within you, what you want to experience in your daily human life. Isn't that what Lissa did and what she talked about earlier? That is exactly what she did. Across all traditions, we hear that very same invitation. Tend the garden of your own consciousness, because the world we experience is not shaped by what happens to us, but by the meaning that we give it, the story we believe about it. and the state of being that we bring to it. This is our inherent divine power. It's not control, it's alignment and participation. And this is where our spiritual practice becomes so important. In Science of Mind, we're not simply taught to set intentions. We are taught to enter the state of consciousness where those intentions can naturally unfold. And that's why I think the final steps of spiritual mind treatment, which is our most powerful spiritual tool, it's our form of affirmative prayer, why I think that they're so powerful. After we recognize the presence of God, after we unify or embody our oneness with this presence, after we realize what is already true in God and state that truth clearly and with conviction, we move into the last two steps of spiritual mind treatment. And I think sometimes these last two steps are a little bit misunderstood. We move into gratitude and we move into release. And at first glance, these two steps might seem really passive, but they're actually two of the most powerful creative movements in consciousness, of our own individual consciousness. I mean, gratitude is the moment when we shift from asking into receiving. And Holmes told us clearly, we can only receive as much as we're willing to receive, as much as we can embody. Gratitude says, yes, I accept that this good is already present in the invisible world and that it is within me already. It says, yes, I accept. Gratitude puts us in the resonance with the good that we're claiming in the rest of the prayer. It kind of reminds me of the way that we receive gifts. Have you ever received a gift? Somebody will hand you a beautifully wrapped present, and you take the present, and you say, "Oh, thank you," but inside you're thinking, "Oh," or maybe even say outwardly, "Oh, you shouldn't have. You really didn't need to do this," or "I don't deserve this." And you never actually open it or receive the gift that was offered to you. It hasn't really been received. But at some point, receiving requires that we just say, thank you. And we open the gift. We receive the gift. We claim the greater good for our lives, whatever it may be, health, peace, abundance. We're not trying to convince life to give us something that it doesn't want to give us. The gift has already been given, as we love to say in Science of Mind. It already exists within divine mind, within us. It is a matter of aligning with what is already true internally so that it moves through us. It flows naturally through us. Gratitude's that moment that we finally say yes to receiving. Thank you. I accept the gift that's already exists in divine mind, and that I know is now making its way into my experience. We embody the gift. And in my humble experience or opinion, this last step of Science to Mind treatment, release, it kind of punctuates gratitude. We've asked, we've aligned, we've received in consciousness, and release is the moment when we rest. When we stop trying to control the outcome, when we hand the seed of our intention over to the deeper intelligence of life itself that's always there, like the gardener who plants the seed and waters it faithfully, and just it allows the intelligence within the seed and the soil and the sun to do what it knows to do, to fulfill its nature. Release is not giving up. Release is trusting law. Release is allowing the creative process to move beyond the limitations of our own personal mind and understanding and expand into a greater knowing. Divine intelligence, I was saying this in the meditation today, divine intelligence holds things that I can't even imagine that I could imagine. It is way beyond what I can know in my conscious mind. And that's what we're allowing when we just rest, receive, and say, okay, I am the place where God shows up. And often when we truly rest in gratitude and release, something remarkable will happen. Life will begin to flow through us as a kind of grace. Ideas will appear, our opportunities will open up, people show up just at the right time. And then we discover that co-creation isn't just about making things happen, it's about becoming the kind of consciousness through which life naturally expresses as love and joy and creativity and fulfillment. It just naturally happens. I truly believe that spiritual mind treatment is allowing the power that is to move through us unbound. That's what it's all about. We create the inner environment so that it can move unencumbered. We let go of the struggle and we rest in divine intelligence and in divine order. If you've ever been in the ocean or anywhere actually, and you got caught up in some kind of a strong current, your first instinct is to fight with the current, to swim against it, to try and free yourself, to use all your strength to force your way back to shore or somewhere safe. But experienced swimmers know that fighting the current usually just makes you exhausted. Instead, you just relax for a moment. You let go of the tension, let your body relax, and then just become aware of the movement of the water. And then you can move with the water rather than fighting against it. And gradually the current will release you and you can find your way back to the calm waters. You're still swimming, you're still participating, but you're not fighting. You're not fighting the intelligence of the ocean. You're working with it. You're resting in it. The world of our own creation is much like that. We don't have to try to force life to obey our every preference or try to control every current of circumstance. We can learn to establish a consciousness of trust, of clarity, of conviction, of gratitude. And then we can rest in the deeper intelligence of life. That's what will carry us where we need to go. It really does work. The mystics have always known this. Jesus hinted at it when he said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all things will be added unto you." In other words, establish the inner state first, and then allow life to respond. If our state of consciousness is naturally restful and calm, then receiving just becomes natural. It's why many traditions practice a Sabbath. A Sabbath isn't just a day to stop our daily work routines. A Sabbath is about entering into rest, to be still and know that I am God, as it says in Scripture. Stillness is the space that aligns us with the kingdom of God, with the infinite field of possibilities, as quantum physics would say. Stillness is the frequency of receiving because it removes any resistance that we might have. We're not fighting the ocean. or true rest moves us from the intellectual idea of receiving to the embodiment of receiving. It's a subtle shift, but to tune into receiving, we have to soften. Oh, that's what Neville Goddard says. I just love what he has to say. He says that we have to soften, and softening makes us available. Goddard compares the softening to the earth opening up to the rain, softening to the rain. It doesn't struggle to receive it. It just opens. And sometimes if you walk outside when it's raining and you watch the rain hit the petals of the leaves, it looks like it's just saying, "Ah, yes, That's it. I want that. In Science of Mind, we often speak about the masculine and the feminine. This is what I was saying earlier when I said, oh, well, then my talk is right on course for National Celebration of Women's Day, I think is what Lissa said. The masculine aspect represents the active movement of consciousness, the planting of the seed, the intention, the clear idea that's held in mind. But every seed also requires the receptive presence of the feminine, the fertile soil that receives it and holds it and allows life to unfold in its own timing. If we were always active, always trying to make something happen, we would forget that creation is not, it's about softening and being available to life, to let life kind of do its thing, because the deeper intelligence within the seed itself, within life, knows what to do. Neville Goddard said, I love this line, he said, availability, which is what the soil is to the seed, it's available. Availability is power surrendered to law. Ah, I love that. In other words, there's great spiritual strength in our willingness to rest and to allow the deeper intelligence of life just to move through us. Just as the soil doesn't struggle to grow the seed, it just receives and nurtures what's been planted. We too participate in creation when we allow ourselves moments of stillness, of gratitude, of openness. We just make ourselves available for the good that we've claimed and that naturally wants to move through us. This is our birthright. This is the way life works. So, our understanding of living in a world of our own creation comes down to participation, not to control. Try as we might, we can't control the entire classroom of life, but we are empowered to tend the atmosphere, the environment that we bring to it, to plant our intention like the gardener, prepare the soil of our consciousness with care and water it faithfully, and then trust and then rest in the divine intelligence that's within the seed, the seed of our intention. And when the currents of life move in a way that we didn't expect, we remember that the wisdom of the ocean will handle things. That sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is not to fight the current, but to align ourselves with the deeper movement of life itself. We become a consciousness where life can express more love, more wisdom, more creativity, more joy into the world in a way that we can all share it. That's how we live in a world of our own creation. So we're just going to take a breath with that. Just a big breath. And move into the space of knowing that all is well. That God is, we are, that we speak our intention, share our intention, and then we just receive. We put ourselves into that place of receptivity so that we can receive the gift that's already been given. And then we rest. We don't try and make it happen. We let the inherent wisdom of the divine presence move through us as law does, mechanistically, and my words are getting stuck. We know that law is going to work no matter what we impress into it. So we relax into that in deep gratitude. We know all is well. And together we say, and so it is. Oh, I started to get fumbled in my own prayer at the end. That was funny. Oh, my friends, that was so much fun. I enjoyed that very much. So, I am not sure who is Lisa. It can't be you, Lisa. Rob, I think Rob is doing Rob must have had some computer problems, or maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the one that's doing the sacred giving today, but I will get up the affirmation. I know I have it in here somewhere. And so if it is me, I'm just going to say that now is the time for our sacred giving, and that as you give to one heart, one mind for the things that you receive in your spiritual community from each other, from the wisdom, from the place that it opens you up, knowing who and what you are, that it comes back to you. That it's just, as we know, the law of circulation is a reciprocal law. So what you give inevitably comes back to you. So let me share. So I want to express gratitude to those people that constantly give and that I'm so grateful for. And we make good use of your contribution, your financial contribution, and encourage you to continue. And let's see, I can't see the whole thing. And you know the ways to give. There's the Venmo way, which is at OHM, OHOM Center, capital C, and you'll see my picture. Or you can send a snail mail check, as many do. And if you don't have that address, just text me and I'll give it to you. It's it's also always in the newsletter, I believe, and I think it's on the website as well, if you can't find it. So let's say the affirmation together. I give with a grateful heart, knowing that spirit is the source and the substance of all supply. I joyfully participate in the circulation of abundance. My offering blesses the world and returns to me multiplied. I am grateful and I am prosperous, and so it is. So it is. There, you're back, Rob. I thought you might have had a little computer glitch.
That's what I had.
Yeah, it happens. Oh, well, I'm glad to see you're back. And I just did this sacred giving. I don't know if you were supposed to do it or I was, but anyway, it's all handled.
It was you, and yeah, it was perfect.
I'll come back to you for the benediction. As far as
And that's you too, but that's okay. I'd be happy to do it.
okay. Next Sunday, woohoo, we have Deborah Perdue, our guest speaker, who is going to come to you. And what was she told me her talk title? Her talk title is Making All Things New with Gratitude. And you know, she's a gratitude specialist. We'll call her a specialist. And she's very excited. I had a nice talk with her this week, and she's going to pick out some music to share with you while I am away helping my daughter through whatever it is she's moving through. So let's see, we'll have Monday night, we'll have our prayer group, and Tuesday night we'll have our a happy pocket full of money. Last week when we did that book, we had two really thick chapters, and I said right out of the gate, oh my, I think we bit off more than we can chew. But you know what? It didn't matter. We had a lovely conversation, and it was all good. So however much you read or don't read, please don't hesitate to join us. It's just fun to connect and talk about, you know, just really talking about spiritual principle and our relationship to it and how we use it. So it was all fun. And on Easter Day, we'll be at home. I guess that's about it. That's about it. Rob, do you mind doing the benediction?
Not at. Oh, first off, can you hear me? I mean,
Yes.
you
You're
can.
a little teeny, but we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, things are flaky, but
That's okay.
That's okay. All right. Hey, what a great opportunity to pray, and there's good things to be grateful for right now. It's a wonderful subject, wonderful topic, wonderful sharing from Lissa, wonderful, wonderful music. Michelle is inspired in her music choices, and I am grateful for that. And I'm grateful for the fact that Nan will ask who created that music, or Marcia will ask who created that music, and it beats me every time. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the universe that allows us to co-create, and we don't have the power to control 100%, but we wouldn't want it, because life is fun and you never know what's coming, except for, one thing, it's good. It's always good. Life is good. Everybody's good. We're all just fine. So thank you, God, for this. Thank you for this opportunity to come together, to be like-minded together, to share this wonderful truth. I am so grateful that this is so. I release my word, and together we say, and so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Rob. Okay, I have a video to share, and I'm hoping that I am knowing that it's not going to be at all glitchy. And this is Faith Rivera, and who is that? Harold Payne, who I don't know who that is, but I really like the... Oops, for some reason it's not letting me do it. Let's try it again. All right, I'm going to stop the share. Don't know why it did that. I think I have to start it before I... There we go. Got it. Can y'all hear it?
Forward, upward motion with drops in one ocean. Roll on.
Will you rise up with me today? Lift up your voice and boldly say, we are the ones we've been waiting for.
Live the dream of your highest calling. Be the hope of a new day dawning. We're the ones who can make a difference. Let's stand together. Share your gifts with the world that's waiting for a change that we're all creating. It's a moment for our greatness. Let's stand together now.
Every day's a chance you can do something amazing to feel your passion blazing and shine.
Paint with every vision, dance in new directions, explode to new heights in your mind.
I will rise up with you today.
Lift up my voice.
Lift up my voice and boldly say, we are the ones we've been waiting for.
Live the dream of your highest calling. Be the hope of a new day dawning. We're the ones who can make a difference. Let's stand together. Share your gifts with the world that's waiting for a change that we're all creating. It's a moment for our greatness. Let's stand together now. Hey. One dream, one voice, one heart, one word, one dream, one voice, one heart, one word.
Stand together.
One dream, one voice, one heart, one word. Stand together. Live the dream of your highest the hope of a new day dawning. We're the ones who can make a difference. Let's stand together. Yeah, yeah. Share your gifts with a world that's waiting for a change that we're all creating. It's the moment for our greatness. Let's stand together now. Stand together. Live the dream. Be the hope. Share your gifts. Stand together now. Share your gifts with a world that's waiting for a change that we're all creating. It's the moment for our greatness. Let's stand together now. Stand together. Live the dream. Be the hope. We're the ones who can make a difference. Let's stand together now. Stand together.
It just seemed timely to me. Because with everything that's going on in our outside world, we got to stand together and create something new on the inside world. So I am going to say goodbye to our recording.